Santokh hosi pihi sach Tanarpan Tritaman Taratar Anabikar Asatari Hau Matmand Charan Saranagat Kargah Leho Ubari Tikar for Dilli Sir Prabh Purkiya Pyan Tegh Bahadur Sikriya Kari na kinhu aan Tegh Bahadur ke chalat Payo jagad ko sok ha sab jag payo ja surlok ha sab jag payo ja surlok Guru Pyari Guru Swari Sadh Sangat Jiyo Aap ji bahut vadbhage ho ਜੋ ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੇ ਪਾਵਨ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਹਜ਼ੂਰੀ ਅੰਦਰ ਇਕੱਤਰ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ। ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਸੁਭਾਗ ਸਮਾਂ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਆ ਹੈ। ਗੁਰੂ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀਓ, we're so fortunate to be gathered here in the form of the Sadh Sangat. As we sat beholding that pavitra darshan of the King of Kings, Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. And they've gathered in here to be able to dive deeper into Gurbani as well as the actions that they have placed upon this earth. So Katha Vichara Aram Karan to Pehle. So before we start this talk, before we start this Katha, ਸਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਅਸੀਸ ਬਖਸ਼ੋ ਅਤੇ ਗੱਜ ਵੱਜ ਕੇ ਫਤਿਹ ਬੁਲਾਓ ਜੀ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, our ninth king, our ninth guru, who performed such an act which had never been seen before and thus will never be seen again, when they sacrificed their own sareer, their body, for the protection, not just for religion, for the protection not just for a desh, some land, a country, but in fact the freedom for every single person in this existence. And throughout this Katha, we'll pick up on some points throughout their jeevan, throughout their life, from a young age growing up towards the Shaheedi of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, which pinpoints specific points, whether it was Guru Sahiban, Gur Sikhs, who heard or realized the very reason, the aparalla for which Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji came to this earth. So before we get into the Katha, it's interesting. Generally in life, there's a path, there's a journey that we have to take. Every single one of us have to walk that path. And on that path, we'll find someone that's making that journey, someone who's traveling that path. And at the end of that path, there's a destination. We're walking that path for a reason. There's a reason why we're taking that journey. Now imagine, Sangat Ji, we stop someone on that path and we ask that person, bro or sis, where are you headed? Where are you walking to? And imagine they turn around and they say, I've got no clue. I've got no idea, I'm just walking. And look, we might see someone who's walking on a path in their life And we might think, Jalo, it's a great thing. This person's moving forward. They're not standstill, stuck in the mud. They're not going backwards. They're moving forward. They're making some progress in their life. But if that person has absolutely no idea where they're headed, the question we got to ask is, what good is all that traveling going to do? If they got no idea what the end goal is, that destination is, all the effort they put in to walk in that path, where's it going to get them? Yes, we're going to look at that person and think, it's great. They're moving forward, they're making some progress in their life. But if they've got no idea where they're headed, a wise person will pick up on that and say they've completely lost. Now, I'll give you an easy example to help us understand. Imagine an innocent child. An innocent child loves to ask this one question: why? But why? Anyone who's older than that child that asks that question, why? They want to know why someone's doing something. Now imagine that innocent child is sat at the back of their parents' car. Their parents are driving them somewhere. They're sat in the back seat of that car. And as they're traveling, this question comes into this child's mind. And they ask their parents in the front, Mum, Dad, why are we in this car? And their mum and dad, that child's mum and dad, is quite patient. And they're both quite patient. Turn around and say, but we're traveling in this car because it helps us to get from A to B. Right? If we were to walk somewhere, take a bike, take public transport, take a lot longer, a car helps cut that time down drastically. And then the kid asks a follow-up question. You can guess what it is. But why? And the parents say, we're going to the Gurudwara today. We're going to the Guru Car. And to get there, it's going to take us an hour or two by foot. We might as well take the car. It'll take 10 minutes, 20 minutes if that. And for a few minutes, the kid puts two and two together and he thinks, okay, that makes sense. I'm happy, I'm content with your answer. And a few minutes later, he's got a simpler question. He turns to his parents and says, Mum and Dad, why do we have to wear clothes? Now, if you've got a young child, a boy, or a nephew like me, or a little brother, you know they're waiting to find the moment they could find a quiet corner in the house where they could take the kapde off and run around like Jungle Boy. So he asks his parents, why do we have to wear clothes? And his mum and dad turn and say, but we have to cover our bodies. That's the reason for wearing clothes. And he then asks the second question, but why? And his mum and dad, like I said before, they're quite patient. They say, but it's to keep our izzat in this world. It's to keep our honor. It's to cover our bodies, to respect people, to protect us from the cold and the hot. And now he's content again. And a few minutes later, he asks his final question. His final question is, Mum and Dad, why are we going to the Gurudwara? And his mum and dad say, we're going to go read some part, we're going to do some simran, listen to some kirtan, katha, do some seva. Now imagine that kid asked that question again, but why? Why do we have to listen to kirtan? Why do we have to listen to katha? Why do we have to do part? Would it change anything in my life? Imagine this kid asks, would it change anything in my life if I didn't do these things? And what answer are the parents going to give then? Now, going back to the first point that I made. We might be traveling down a certain path, we might be traveling down a certain route, making that journey in our lives. And people will look at us and think, well, it's a good thing, they're moving forward, at least they're making some progress in their life. But if we got no idea what our destination is, we got no idea what the end goal is, then why is all that effort going to get us? Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj, they give this beautiful Pangti. Maharaj says, Manukh bin buje britha aya. Sometimes Gurbani can be quite direct. Maharaj says, Manukh bin buje britha aya. What Guru Sahib is saying, Maharaj is speaking to us, O my Sikh, Manukh bin buje, without understanding why you've come to this world. Birtha aya, your coming to this world is completely useless if you don't understand why you're here in the form of a human. Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj is saying your life is completely useless. Now, I'll give you another example to help understand. Imagine there's two people sat in front of us. One person understands why they come in this world. The other person has no idea. If I got two candles in my hand, to make it a tangible understanding, I've got two candles in my hands. They're both the same size, same weight, same structure. They've got the same scent. Both of these candles in my hands have no difference whatsoever. But if I was to light one of them and keep the other one unlit, one is now lit, the other one is completely dark. Even then, if I was to look externally and try to measure what difference can I find, they'd weigh the exact same amount, because the wick has weight, the candle wax has weight, but light has absolutely no weight. Even though one of them is lit, the other one isn't, they'll still have the same weight. But there's one huge difference which separates both those candles. That fact is that one of them is lit and is letting off light, the other one is still completely dark. As much difference as you'll find between the color black and white, as much difference as you'll find between the bottom of the ocean and the top of a mountain, you'll see between those two candles. I'm going back to that original example. Imagine you see two people sat in front of you. They're both reading Bani. They're both reading Bani the same speed, same tune. They look exactly the same. Flesh and bones, every human. Same color skin, same color hair even. One of them has understood why they come to this world. The other one has absolutely no idea. It's exactly the same as that candle. One of them is lit. The other one is still completely dark. Externally, if you were to measure the difference between those two people reading Bani, there's no difference. You can weigh them, they weigh the same, they look exactly the same. The question is, internally, what is going on which creates that difference between them two? Now, if I was to ask another question, what is the ideology of Sikhi? What is the anatomy of a Sikh? Look at this response that Guru Nanak Maharaj would get. They would say, Gur kahya sakar kamavho, Gur ki karni kahe tavho, Nanak gurmat saj samavho. Really simple answer Guru Nanak Maharaj gives. You want to know the ideology of a Sikh? Gur kahya, whatever your Guru says, sakar kamavho, through and through, you commit to it. Gur ki karni kahe tavho, and look at this last pankti, Nanak gurmat saj samavho. It's often asked to a Sikh this question, whether you've been born as a Sikh in a Sikh household or you've come into Sikhi, someone on the street who's generally an atheist or is agnostic, someone who doesn't believe in God, they'll ask you this question. They'll say, why do you follow the words of a man? Because they don't understand the value of our Guru. They'll probably see them as a man. They'll ask you the question, why do you follow the words of a man? Have you not got any sense to live your own life in accordance to your own mind? Now, how do you explain to someone who has no concept of God, no concept of the Guru, the relationship between a Sikh and the Guru? Sometimes you've got to make things relatable for people to understand. And if you were to ask that same person, how do you ever trust anyone's advice? Surely you've taken some advice in your life from your parents, from your friends, from your siblings. What made you trust their advice? They'll say, I trust that person, I trust their intentions. And there's a 3-step process when it comes to someone being able to trust their Guru. It's quite simple. First step is this. We cannot see that light of Akal Purkh WhyGuru just yet. Yes, we have darshan of Gurbani and Gurbani as a Guru. We have darshan of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj is our Guru. But that light of Akal Purkh WhyGuru, which is in every single cell, every single atom within this world, it's very hard to get to the point where you can have darshan that you can see that, unless you get extremely lucky. So the first thing we will see is Gurbani. And it's not the fact that we have to listen and understand Gurbani to know and have that relationship with our Guru. I'll give you a prime example. All we need to know is what effect are these words having on someone else? Is it a negative thing or is it a positive thing? Is it dragging them down or is it uplifting? Especially in this Guru Card, I'll give you a prime example. About 6 months ago, Basis Sikhi have been running this Thursday course every week in the huts outside in the car park. It's called the WhyGuru course. Thursday between 7 to like 9 p.m. And all of a sudden we saw this Gora just randomly pop up and he started coming on a weekly basis. And a few weeks later, he started to keep his hair, his case, and he started to tie the star off of his own back. Then a few weeks later, he just really got committed into Seva. And when we got to understand his story, we found out he was a Muslim originally. And he said, look, unfortunately, about a year ago, I was made homeless. I had nowhere to stay. And it was my luck that they placed me into Southall somewhere. So he comes to Southall and he goes to the only place where he knows he can get free food, which is the Gurukar. So he comes to the Gurdwara. And after a few weeks, I'd say, he thought to himself, why does everyone seem to come to this room in this Darbar, this court of Akal Purkh WhyGuru? Why did they come here? What are they getting? They sat here with respect. What is the reason for it? And all of a sudden, he thought to himself, let me see. I want to have a look. He walked through those very doors. He sat in this very Sangat. Kirtan was happening on the stage. He closed his eyes for a brief moment and he said he felt this electric shock go through his whole body, which he's never experienced in his whole life. He felt this current going through his whole body he'd never experienced his whole life, and he asked the question, what is that? Just like that innocent child, why? What was it? So what is the effect? Remember we said there's 3 steps to trust in your Guru. The first one is, what effect are these words of Gurbani having on an innocent person? And when you start to see, hold on, these words are uplifting, they're changing people's lives, the second question we ask is, what kind of lives did our Gurus live? What kind of people were they? And we'll go into a few Sakhiyam Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaji, but very simply put, who do you know in this world who will teach you how to be completely fearless, but at the same time, be completely compassionate to someone? To stand up for the rights of any other person in this world, but at the same time, have the power to tear down any tyrant that comes in front of you. Who do you know has that power? And who do you know can instill that power into us? Who do you know that was the greatest poet in this world, the greatest advocate, the greatest warrior, the greatest politician, the greatest father you've ever seen, apart from our Gurus? And when you start to listen to our itihas and understand this is who my Guru is, and then you start to line that up with Gurbani and think, hold on, these 2 things are matching up. The third and final step that we take is, if this is what my Guru is saying, and Gurbani is saying the exact same thing, maybe, just maybe, I can experience what my Guru is telling me I can experience. How do you think thousands of people, from drinking, smoking, going to clubs, all of a sudden, in a matter of months, if not even a day, they've turned their lives around? They must have experienced something. So like that last pankti, Nanak, Gurmat Sat Samavaho, the whole point here is, yes, you listen to your Guru, but at the end of the day, their wisdom is so unfathomable. It's not something that we can understand, but it helps us connect with the ultimate truth. And what we're going to look at through this Katha is, what was that wisdom? What was that understanding, that perspective Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaji were trying to show us? So, from the early ages of Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaji, in their younger years on this world, they were known as Tyagamal. Right? Before they were the Guru, they were given this name. Their name was Tyagamal. And why? Because they lived a life of Vairag. What that means is they were really detached. Detached from people, detached from pleasures mainly, growing up. And Guru Sahib Ji had this understanding, and they tried to show everyone this understanding that this body is just a kapda. Karmi ave kapda, nadri mokhdwar. That this kapda of a body is transitional. It's only transitory. It's only going to be here temporarily. Your next life, you get another kapda. Whether it's another human body, whether it's a fish, a tree, whatever it might be. And so much so, it got to the point where it came to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaji's eldest brother's wedding, their Anandgaraj, their marriage ceremony. And Mata Nanaki Ji, who was the mother of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, they could see that their son, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaji, they didn't play with a lot of people. They didn't play with other kids. They didn't laugh. They didn't joke around. They kept reserved. They kept quiet to themselves. And they enjoyed that. But Mata Nanaki Ji thought, let me get them more involved with the family. So they said to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaji, Maharaj, I'm going to send you with the Bharat, with the wedding procession, with your family members. You're going to go with them to the wedding because I want you to get to know your family. Maharaji, being Agyakari of their parents, they said, okay, Sat Bachan. So Mata Nanaki got this really expensive chola. Really expensive chola made for Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. And on that day of Baba Gurditta Ji's wedding, their eldest brother, they put that chola on Guru Sahib Ji. And they go with the Bharat. And as they're traveling with that wedding procession, on the side of the street, they see this poor Garib child, this poor child. He sat there on the curb. He's got his kapade are tattered up, torn up, and he's shivering in the cold. And without even thinking, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, they walk up as a child themselves, they take off that brand new chola and they clothe that kid in that chola. And that bachara kid, who probably hasn't ever received any new form of clothing, runs home to his parents to show them what he's got for today. And one of the Sevadars had seen what had happened. So he goes to Mata Nanaki. Mata Nanaki comes with a bit of gussa. They take Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji back to the house. They start shouting respectively to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, saying, if you wanted to give daan, if you wanted to give charity, you got so many clothes at home, you could have packed a bag here and given it to the child. Whatever you wanted to give, why that one chola, which took us so much time to make, why this day? And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, they smiled at their mother and said, Ma, you know very well daan is only given without reflecting on what you're giving. You don't think about what you want to give to someone and then give it. Daan, charity, to be charitable means to give in an instant. And only after you've given something, then it comes to your mind, oh, that's why I gave that thing. It's a reaction. So Mataji, they're still quite angry. They still are shouting at their son. And then when they sort of stop, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji say to their mum, they say, Ma, I can see how upset you've got. Because I gave this kapada that was on my body to someone else in need. I can see how upset that's made you. I remember earlier we were talking about the destination, why we come to this world. They say, you are yet to understand why this son of yours has come to this world. Today you're upset because I had to give this kapada, this chola to someone else. What are you going to do, Mataji, when I have to give this body? This body you have to give in order to protect other people. How are you going to feel then, Mom? So they already knew that this body of theirs was a kapada, it was temporary. This is why Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji are called Hind Di Chadar or Dharm Di Chadar. Because a chadar is that one piece of cloth, that one piece of fabric which is large enough to cover a human from head to toe. And when it comes to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, they are not bound to just one religion, one group of people, one following. Dharm Di Chadar, Hind Di Chadar means to completely cover this entire creation from one corner to the other with their kirpa. To bless everyone with that one thing they're looking for, which is Anand. That is the kirpa of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji. And if we think a bit deeper, this understanding that this body, this world is temporary, it's ingrained so deeply into Sikhi, that gyan, that wisdom. What Guru Sahib Ji have done, it's not like some random prophet, this random fakir has come to this world, given you some knowledge, and then they've walked off, they've left this world, and that knowledge is there. No, Guru Sahib Ji has taken that gyan, they've packaged it up, they themselves have placed that into Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. They themselves have sat within Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. And they've infused two gifts into Sikhi. Those two gifts are this. The first gift they're given to every single Sikh is known as Bhagati. Bhagati in the form of Gurbani. Like this bachan from Sri Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj, Piyo Dade ka khol dittha khajana. This Gurbani is a treasure chest. Ta mere man paya nidana. That's why my mind has come to finally come to peace. So they've given us that treasure of Gurbani. Someone who understands the value of Gurbani, they'll become a trader in that. They'll see Gurbani as a commodity. They want to consume as much as they can to build up their bank account. Why? It's going to help them connect with the Galburg WhyGuru. That's the first gift they've given. The second gift they've given. as well as the aspect of bhakti, every single movement in this world needs to show power, manifest power in a tangible source to be able to have a say. What is our movement? Our movement here is the Sikh Qawm. This Sikh Qawm is a movement. So Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, yes, they've given us bhakti, but at the same time, they've given us this power of Shaheedi in this world. And that power, that blood of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, not that we can see it, but it's still accessible for every single Sikh today, here and now. I'll give you a prime example of what I mean by this. Years back, before Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji Shaheedi, in Lahore, right now it's known as Pakistan, back then it would have been part of India. In Lahore, Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj, they've travelled from Sri Amritsar Sahib Ji to Lahore to give Shaheedi. In front of them is this burning hot, boiling cauldron of water. They just sat on Tatti Tavi. Then they've had for 8 hours plus hot sand poured over their body. Now they are sitting in this boiling hot pot of water. And Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj Ji gives Shaheedi. Now years later, the Sikh of Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji Maharaj, known as Bhai Dayala Ji, they are stood in Chandni Chowk, they are brought forward. And they are brought forward. And in front of them, they can see this chulla. Chulla means this fire, basically. And it is blazing hot. And on top of that chulla is this pot of boiling hot water. And that jalad, the executioner, he's not looking for little twigs to throw in every now and then to keep the fire burning. He's looking for the biggest, most chunky, thickest forms of lakkad to throw into there to ensure that that fire is as hot as it can be. Just seeing that boiling pot of water would shake the very core of an average human being. And Bhai Dayala Ji, as they walk forward, the executioner, he thinks to himself that Bhai Dayala Ji is starting to get scared. They're looking at this water, they're looking at their fate, and he asks Bhai Dayala Ji, can you form a friendship with this water? With the pani in this cauldron, can you form a friendship with it? Because that's the last thing you're going to touch in this world before you leave. And as Bhai Dayala Ji are walking forward, they keep looking at Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, who sat on their left. They take a few steps, then they keep looking at that boiling pot. And they get to the point now where they stood bang in the middle of that pot, right in front of it. They put their hands together, they close their eyes, and the executioner says, you've given up now. He says, you've given up now. You've got two options. You either step into that pot right here, right now, or you convert and you can walk away from this. And Bhai Dayala Ji says, just be quiet for a moment. Let me make my ardas to my Guru. And he thinks about Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj. And he says, Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj, that same deg which years ago was being boiled in front of you in Lahore, now today in this very moment, your Sikh, Bhai Dayala Ji, stood in front of that same deg, that same boiling pot. I mean, he says to Guru Arjan Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj, I myself have no power to withstand the heat of that water. I have no power to be able to take that torture. Because Maharaj, this might be my body. This might be the body of Bhai Dayala Ji, but you, Maharaj, you fill this body with power. You fill this body with the ability to withstand that heat. Because only truly, Maharaj, you are the one who can give Shaheedi. There's no one else who can do it. He walks forward, Bhai Dayala Ji, they gave Shaheedi that day. And the question is, where did that power come from? These Shaheediyan, whether by Guru Sahiban, whether by the Guru Sikhs that followed, they weren't just a random event. These Shaheediyan were well thought out, well constructed, well orchestrated. Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, they thought so well about their Shaheedi. Like we said earlier, that blood of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji is still available. The power of that blood is still available for every single Sikh here today. Question is, how worthy do you have to be to earn that? When the Lord arrives, look, only 40 years ago at Darbar Sahib, where did they get that power from? We might think, how is it possible? How is it possible that you can't see this blood, you can't see this power, but you got access to it? I'll give you an easy scientific example, because everyone loves a scientific example. If I was to hold something and drop it from my hand, which direction is it going to go? It's only going to go down. Now, we can't see gravity. You can't feel gravity. I can't package gravity in a bottle and hand it to you. But it's there, working subtly in the background. Just like that power of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Shaheedi is still there, present, subtle in the background. Question is, how do you access it? Now, Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, Ji, they themselves in their own Bani, they state that Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, they weren't forced to come to Delhi. If you've been watching the BOS TV blogs for the past month, BOS TV, if you haven't seen, check it up on YouTube. They've been releasing vlogs on a week-to-week basis from their travels, reliving the steps of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, where they traveled up until they gave their Shaheedi. And so we can see that it's quite clear, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, they weren't forced to come to Delhi. They took a whole year to travel there, in their own time, in their own mode. Right? It was up to them. So much so that when the Sangat of Delhi, at that time, the Sangat of Delhi, they were trying to raise enough funds to free Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji from that cage which they were kept in. Now sometimes we might hear in Katha, or some Gurmukh Sajjan might say to us, that there was no Sangat in Delhi who could stand up for Guru Sahib Ji. They were too scared to do so. But Lakhi Jawar Jana, when it came to Guru Sahib Ji giving Shaheedi, who was the Sikh that took the body of Guru Sahib Ji and burnt his very house down in order to cremate their body, because the government were on the way to figure out which one of you have their body, which one of you are trying to keep it from us. He lived in Delhi. He was from Delhi. So much so, go back to the point, the Sangat, the Sikh Sangat in Delhi tried to raise 1 million rupees. Imagine how much money that would have been back then. 1 million rupees to free Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj from that prison. They did so. Then they went to the guard, because Maharaj was kept in a prison facility almost. They went to the guard, and everyone's got a price, right? No matter who you work for, what you stand for, you got a price. So you could be bought out. And they offered this money to the guard, and the guard accepted. And there used to be a Sikh, if I'm not mistaken, who worked in the prison undercover, just for the sole basis that he can communicate between Guru Sahib Ji and the Sikh Sangat outside. So what ends up happening? He finds out that this money is going to come in, and the guards accepted. He goes to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj and says to Maharaj, Maharaj, get ready. Get ready, because the money is going to be transferred, and we can take you out from here straight to Sri Anandpur Sahib. Be ready. And look at these words from Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. Maharaj says to their Sikh who's under disguise, Maharaj says, who told you to make this accommodation for me? Who told you that I wanted to be freed from this jail? They asked their Sikh, who told you to make these arrangements for me? And the Sikh said, Maharaj, Bentiya, please, we are your Sikh. We don't want to see you in this state. We're so eager to be able to see you free and walking. Let us do this seva. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj say, who do you think brought me here in the first place? Who do you think brought me here in the first place? As if to say, Maharaj is saying, I came here of my own free will. As if to say, don't get in the way of what I'm doing. So, the reason I'm saying this is because you look at Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj's Bani, Dasam Bani, Maharaj says, Chikar for Dilli Sir, Prabhupura Kiya Piyan. They are explaining what happened to their own father in their own words. Tikar means to break. Sorry, Tikar means a panda, a pot. Right? Tikar for Dilli Sir. Tikar means a panda, a pot. For means to break. Dillis means the Badshah of Delhi. Sir, head. Put those together. Guru Sahib Ji took their, we remember we said that Maharaj saw their body as a kappada. Same way they see as a kappada, they see as a pot. Tikar force for the least sir. Maharaj took their body, which is a pot. They took that pot and they smashed it on the head of the Badshah of Delhi. Aurangzeb. As if to say, going way back to the beginning of this Katha, we mentioned that Guru Sahib Ji had that understanding very early on, this body is a kapda, this body is temporary. And they think in their head, if this body is temporary, if this body is going to come to an end anyways, if it's going to be shattered anyways, the people who live at such a high spiritual level, they think to themselves, why not kill two birds with one stone? If this body is going to be broken anyways, why not free a whole kingdom, a whole land, a whole dish along with breaking this pot? Why not just achieve more than just death? And it's often a question I've heard being asked, especially more recently online, which is, why did Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji have to give Shaheedi? Could they not just talk it out? Could they not just have a discussion, find a solution, and come to some form of resolution for the whole country? Now you got to think to yourself, how powerful was the Badshah of Delhi, Aurangzeb? How powerful was he? It's often repeated in Itihas, he would only eat a meal when he had hundreds and thousands of janeeu collected every single day. If you don't know what a janeeu is, what the Hindus used to wear was this cotton thread around them, and it weighs probably 0.1 grams, if that. And he wouldn't eat that Badshah of Delhi until hundreds and thousands of them were collected, as if to say people have converted to Islam or they've been killed on the spot for not listening to the orders. He had that much power. So he's killing people on a mass scale. And just to make this relatable, it's hard enough. It's hard enough to try and convince and change the opinion of someone who's so stubborn-minded. Look at the people, especially in today's day and age, who are attached to people like Andrew Tate, people who are attached to people like Donald Trump, people who are attached to people like Elon Musk, or any rap star, any gangster you want to see on TikTok, on Instagram. And what people start to do, especially young boys, they will live their lives in accordance to the advice that these people give. They're basically buying into this propaganda, which doesn't necessarily align with reality. What is the propaganda? A man should have power. A man should have respect. A man should be a man, right? And I'm not saying those things aren't correct. The thing is the context in which they're said. In reality, a lot of these young teenage boys have not done anything for anyone, let alone themselves. And they're going out there demanding respect. They're going out there demanding power. They're going out there demanding someone to look at them as if they're quote-unquote a big man. Now, take that same understanding and put it towards Aurangzeb, someone who was that stubborn-minded, who had a heart of stone. He actually did a lot of stuff in his life. Not a lot of that stuff was great. He actually had a lot of power. So much power, he had people with power who were backing him. He had power upon power. Now, the question here is, would words alone have helped change the situation? Because that's the question that gets asked. Would words alone have changed the mind of Aurangzeb? Let's go back to Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj. Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj, there comes a time in Itihas, they traveled to Mecca. They traveled to Mecca, they got to where the Kaaba is, right? The holiest shrine of Muslims. And in the early hours of the morning, there was no one really there. It was just Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj and Bhai Meharinder Ji. And innocently, Maharaj lay down and they point their feet towards the Kaaba. And now this man was coming, sweeping the floors. He sees Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj. Instead of just tapping them and saying, hold on, what you're doing is wrong, he goes and kicks them. He kicks Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj. And imagine a bully in a playground or in our workplace. Imagine you got beef with someone. And instead of someone talking to you, say, I don't like what you did, hey, or they start harassing you verbally, they come and just punch you in the face. Would words do anything to change that situation? I'll give you another example. Wali Kandari. He was a fakir, sat on the top of a hill of a pahar, who used to keep all the water supply to himself. One day, Bhai Meharinder Ji were asked to, he was really thirsty. They went up all the way up this hill to ask that fakir for that water. The fakir turns around and says, no, this is mine. I can tell you whether you have it or not. Bhai Meharinder ji, they return, they go all the way back down that Pahad to Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj. To cut a long Sakhi short, Maharaj puts the ground, they open up a hole in the ground, all that water from up there is coming up from the bottom. That fakir sees, he goes livid. He hurls a boulder all the way down to Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj. Would words have changed that situation? Would speaking have changed that situation as that boulder's coming down that hill? When it came to that instance in Mecca, it took a miracle for that person who kicked Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj to understand the truth. What Maharaj did, they lifted the Kaaba, spun it around, and dropped it down. As if to say to that man, yeah, I get it. You know a few things in this world, but there's so much more truth out there you have no idea of. When it came to Wali Kandari, Maharaj took their hand and they slapped that rock. And that nishani can still be seen today in Pakistan. Going back to the point you made earlier, we have two powers infused into Sikhi. The first is known as Bhagati, in the form of Tan Tan Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj. The second power that is infused into Sikhi, which we still have access to today, is known as Shaheedi, or in other words, translated to miracles, not miracles of someone to follow us and create a following to get some money from it. No, miracles to show people of this world what the ultimate truth is, when it's hard to get through to them just with words alone. So what was the miracle that had to be shown to Aurangzeb? The Kashmiri Pandits, one of which, I believe, used to teach Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj Ji when they were a child, Sanskrit. They come to Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji and they do a benti, Maharaj, please protect us. We're under a lot of risk at the moment. If we don't have someone to save us, then our whole Dharam, Hindustan as you know it, Hindu Dharam is going to come to a complete end. And as Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji and these Kashmiri Pandits are having this discussion in the Darbar of Guru Sahib in Sri Anandpur Sahib, along comes an 8-year-old Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj Ji known as Gobind Rai Ji. That was the name before they got the Guru Tagaddi, before they came Guru. And they asked their father, what's going on, Maharaj? Why have these Pandits come? Why are they so scared? And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji says, look, the Mughal Empire are crushing their mandirs. They're killing every man, woman and child who doesn't want to convert, or they're forcefully converting people. And Gobind Rai Ji asked their father, what can be done to completely get rid and banish these tyrants? And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji say, it will take the blood of a Mahapurush, a really, really saintly person. It will take the blood of a really, really saintly person who is so connected to the Akal Purkh WhyGuru within to spill on the floor in Delhi so that this empire comes to a crushing downfall. That is the only solution. There's no other way. And Gobind Rai Ji turned to their father at the age of 8 and they say to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, who else is going to carry out such a feat? Who else is as big of a Mahapurush as you, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji? And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji take their son, Gobind Rai Ji, into their embrace, and the decision was made to give Shaheedi. And now bringing that candle analogy back into the front of our attention, we ask that question, the difference between a lit candle, candle that's lit, that's letting off light, versus an unlit candle. And in this same instance, you can flip that question. What is the difference? What was the difference between the blood of a normal person and the blood of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji? Because in reality, hundreds of thousands of people who had already been killed by the Mughal emperor in Delhi, their blood had already been spilt on that floor. After months and months, did it change the mind of the Mughal emperor? Did it stop the killings? No, it had no impact. Tikar Delhi Sir, why did Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji's khoon, why did their blood have such an impact? At the moment that it dropped, it changed the course of history. 27 years, Sangat Ji. 27 years Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji spent sat in Pora Sahib in total isolation, focusing on Akal Purkh WhyGuru in Samadhi, in meditation. Their blood was already Amrit from the start. They were born into this world as a Mahapurush. But I'm going to ask this question, Sanguji, how much power would have been drawn into their blood over those 27 years? No wonder that when the day came and Guru Sahib Ji gave Shaheedi, no wonder that their words came true. That as soon as that blood dropped on that floor, it spelled the end of the entire Mughal Empire. No wonder. Theekar phol, Dilli sir, Prabhupura kiya piyan. Guru Sahib Ji took that panda, their pot, that Srir Rupi panda, they smashed it on the top of the head of Aurangzeb, the Badshah of Delhi, and it completely wiped out his kingdom. And the next Pankti that follows from that, Tegh Bahadur Si Kriya, Kari na kinuhu an. No one, Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj says, has ever been able to accomplish what Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji were able to accomplish that day. No one ever will. And just to touch on a point, before we go into a bit more on the Shaheedi, on an earlier part of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji's Jeevan, their life, when they were quite young, Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj, our sixth Guru, who was the father of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, they came to see their son. And as soon as they saw them, they did namaskar. They bowed down to Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji Maharaj. And one of the Sikhs, known as Bhai Bidhi Chand Ji, they turned to Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj and say, Maharaj, you are sat on the throne of Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji Maharaj. The custom, the rule is that you can only bow down to that person who is going to become the next Guru, who you're going to give the Guruship to. You can only bow down to them. And who knows? When it came to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji finally receiving the Gurta Gaddi, Guru Har Krishan Sahib Ji Maharaj had already left their bodily sarup. They couldn't bow down to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji in the physical form. Who knows, all the way those years back, Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj already completed this. They already told the whole world, my sons are going to become the Guru one day. And as they bowed down, they then picked up Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, they were a young child at this time, they had a small hand. Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj used to wear two swords, two talwara. One represents Miri, which is manifested power, tangible power in this world. The other represents Piri, spiritual power. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj take their hand and they hold on to the mut, the handle of the Piri sword. And if you've got a young nephew like I do, or a young brother, a son who's quite little, you'll know that the grip of a child is invincible. They grab your clothes, a toy, your beard for example, it's hard to get it off. And exactly the same thing happened here. When Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj grabbed that mut, Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj couldn't get their hand off. And then these words came out of the mouth, the mukra of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji Maharaj. Maharaj says, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji. It says, Guru Tegh Bahadur Sahib Ji Maharaj, they will have an abundance of spiritual power. An ever-flowing fountain of spiritual power will come from Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj. And in fact, every single person or a lot of people in this world will know how to wield a sword, will know how to strike a sword. But only my son, Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, will have the tolerance to be able to withstand the strike from a sword. So much so that the person taking that strike, they will come to lose. They will find it hard. They will be defeated. But Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj will never be defeated. Never. Those bhajans were years back before Guru Sahib Ji gave their Shaheedi. Now fast forward to the day before Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji gave their Shaheedi. Like I said before, they were kept in a prison facility. And the superintendent, the officer in chief, or the officer in charge at the time, his name was Abdullah. And he was a horrible man. Right? Often it was stated that you'd find him drunk. Often you would find him swearing and shouting at anyone he saw. Workers, people outside. And to be fair, you think about it, you probably need someone like that to run an unjust prison like they had in Delhi at the time. And so it was the early hours of Amrit Villa. This is the day before Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj gave Shaheedi. And Abdullah thinks to himself, let me go and check to see if Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj is still in the cage, because the whole government knew, the Sarkar knew that Maharaj had a lot of power. They thought to themselves, let it not be that Maharaj escapes and will be put to shame. So he's walking towards Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj's cell. And it's Amrit Villa during this time. It's really early in the morning. And you got to think about how many taranga, what was the atmosphere like around Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj? How much power were they emitting at that time when they sat there, focusing on Gurbani, focusing on Galpur WhyGuru. As Abdullah was walking closer and closer to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, slowly, all that fire that was in his mind, which was causing him to be so angry all the time, causing him to lash out at people, that weight that was pushing him down, it was lifting, it was flying away, it was floating away. That coolness started to come to his mind. And as he's coming closer to Guru Sahib Ji opened their eyes, and he starts to look into Guru Sahib Ji's eyes, and all he can see is complete compassion. Think about it, they're in a cage where they can barely move. Spikes are facing inwards to allow so that Guru Sahib Ji cannot move a single inch. And Maharaj is looking at this person with complete compassion. Why? Brahm Gyani ka mitra satar saman. Our Guru, Akal Purakh WhyGuru, they don't see any difference between friend or an enemy. They treat everyone exactly the same. So as Abdullah keeps walking closer, that weight on his mind, that fire in his head starts to cool down, starts to lift away. And he gets right next to Maharaj and he sits down in Chonkra. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj asks him, Abdullah, why have you come to sit next to me? And Abdullah says these words to Guru Sahib. He says, Maharaj, I don't know why, I don't know how, but Maharaj, you've extinguished this pain in my mind. I've never felt this before. And he goes, because of what you've done, I'm willing to sacrifice everything for you, here and now. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj, they look at him and they think, sacrifice? They say, only a Sikh knows how to sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice? And Abdullah says, look, I'm a superintendent here. I'm the officer in charge. I've got links everywhere in India. I can get you overnight. I can get you out of this prison cell. Let it be my seva to you that I get you out of this prison cell and back to Sri Anandpur Sahib overnight. I don't care what they do to my family. I don't care what they do to me. I just want to do as much as I can for you, Maharaj. And Guru Sahib Ji, they look at Abdullah, and you got to understand how much of an impact having love for your Guru has. How much of a phenomenon it is when that love strikes. You know, we always hear that Sikhi is about sacrifice, Sikhi is about sacrifice, and 100% it is. Who wants to wake up at 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning? Especially now, in the freezing cold, you got to face that cold, harsh winter breeze in your bedroom. Who wants to have an Ishnan in the morning, sit down, do WhyGuru Simran, sit down and do Nitnem, and then go to work? How much of a sacrifice is it in today's day and age to keep your case? When social media is telling you, no, you got to look beautiful. This is the only way to look beautiful. How hard is it to carry these kakar? How hard is it to do seva? How hard is it to give your mind to your Guru? So yes, Sikhi is about sacrifice. But when it turns from, I've got to do this, man, I have to do this. When it turns from that to, I cannot wait to sacrifice more of myself for my Guru, that's when you know you're in love. That's when you know that love is about sacrifice. You know, when a normal person looks at these Shaheediyan, a normal armed person who doesn't know anything about Sikhi, they look at the Shaheediyan, they'll ask this one question, why on earth would someone put themselves through so much pain? Why? How can you explain to these people that the Sikh of the Guru is rushing, they're running to be able to sacrifice themselves as quickly as they can? How do you explain that to someone? So Guru Sahib Ji, they turn to Abdullah and they say to Abdullah, look, no one brought me here. I'm here out of my own will. And they say, look, your seva that you wanted to do for me is Parvan. I don't want anything from you, but I only ask this one thing. There's a Sikh in here that works for you in disguise. Can you bring him to me? I need to tell him something. So Abdullah says, fine, that's cool. He goes, finds that Sikh, his name was Bhai Jetaji. So Bhai Jetaji is brought to Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj the day before they gave Shaheedi. And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, they explained that by Jeta Ji, tomorrow I'm going to give Shaheedi. And it's not just I'm going to give Shaheedi. The Sarkar, the government, want to chop my body into 4 pieces. Why? There were 4 doors leading into Delhi. And Maharaj said they're going to hang each one of my body parts on each one of those doors to act as a deterrent for anyone who decides to step up against us. Anyone who decides to become fearless, like Gurbani is telling us to be, nirpau. Anyone who decides to become fearless and step up against us, they'll see this is the consequence for doing that. And then Guru Sahib Ji, they make it very clear to Bhai Jeta Ji that as soon as my Shaheedi is given, that you were to collect my cease, my head, and you to return to Sri Anandpur Sahib, because it is the utmost importance that the Sangat of Sri Anandpur Sahib receive my cease, receive my head. And Bhai Jeta Ji had an innocent question, but Maharaj, what about your body? Okay, I could take your cease, but I can't leave your body here. I can't go without your body. Maharaj says, Bhai Jeta Ji, listen to my instructions. Someone else will take care and sambal that seva. You just take my cease. It is so important that you take my cease. And then Bhai Jeta Ji had another question, right? Remember the innocent child at the beginning? The question was, but why? Why is your cease so important? And Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj says to Bhai Jeta Ji, my cease have my case attached to him. And they said, my case have stored all those years of bhakti that I have gone through. That power of that bhakti is stored in these case of mine. And Maharaj says, I want my Sangat, my Sikh Sangat, my Sikhs to have that power with them. When our Guru asks us, advises us, or in other words, tells us to keep our case, it's not just because we have to listen to what our Guru is saying. There's reason behind it. There's a reason behind it. So, to wrap up this Katha, because we've only got a few minutes left, Tan Bhai Mati Das Ji, Tan Bhai Sati Das Ji, Tan Bhai Dayala Ji, Tan Sri Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, who gave Shaheediya not necessarily to protect this Kara, not to protect this Dastar. They did so to protect a completely different religion, because they wanted to protect their own symbols. And the symbols of the Hindu Dharam, just to make it clear, we have no connection with them in the house of the Guru. So much so that in Gurbani, Guru Sahib Ji oppose a lot of these symbols. Why? Because they create ego in people. But still, the Guru gave Shaheedi, the Guru Sikhs gave Shaheediyan to protect the symbols of the Hindus. And the question for us, Sangat Ji, when it comes to this Shaheedi Purab of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, is this just going to be another Shaheedi Purab? We remember the Sakhi, we go home and return to our normal lives again? Or do we ask this question, that the house of the Guru was so powerful, the Sangat of the Guru was so powerful, they could sacrifice themselves for another religion's symbols to save another religion's symbols? How weak have we become? We can't even protect our own. Back then, sacrifices were made, and I'll repeat it again, because the Kashmiri Pandits, out of the fear of their lives, came to the Guru's sanctuary to ask them for protection, to protect their symbols. How weak have we become? The Sikhs of the Guru, and we can't even protect our own. What are we running from? What pressures have we got that are on our back, like those Kashmiri Pandits? That we are cutting and getting rid of our own symbols ourselves, Sanatji. So just to wrap it up now, because we only got a minute left. The day of the Shaheedi comes. Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji were asked, if you got any final rites? So Maharaj said, can you allow me to take my final Ishnan, which they did. And they also asked, allow me please to recite one Sri Japji Sahib Path, which if you look throughout our whole history, many Guru Sahiban, many Guru Sikhs have recited Gurbani before they've left their body, whether through Shaheedi or otherwise. And as they were pidgike reading it, completely absorbed, not just running it through a YouTube track, not just trying to get through it as quickly as they can, they absorbed, they were connected to every single word. Then the time came, Maharaj lowered their head the Jalad with all his strength struck with his sword. Before that sword could even reach the neck of Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji, their head was separated from their body. So Sangat Ji, that brings us to the end of the Katha. And the take home or the takeaway message from this Katha is this. I'll repeat it again. Are we going to let this be another Shaheedi Purab where we listen to the great Sakhiyan of our Guru and we return to our lives? Or is there more in there for us as the Sikhs of the Guru? So Sangat Ji, please forgive me for any mistakes that I've made, which I definitely have made. Please forgive me if I've said anything out of line, out of turn. You are the Sangat, only you guys can bless this seva to move forward. So we'll finish off in these final two pangtiyan. Lekha Katha hai na chutiya, khin khin pur nahar, baksanhar baksala, nanak par utar. WhyGuru Ji ka Khalsa, WhyGuru Ji ki